What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to discuss if the new Scream movie is going to be Scream 5 or a Scream reboot. Now, this is a really, really cool topic and something that, man, I've wished would have happened so long ago, but I've been wanting to happen for so long. And it's a movie franchise that I'm super, super passionate about. I love the Scream film. Scream, in my opinion, is for Halloween time, I guess, is my favorite Halloween movie of all time. And I really do love the franchise in general. Even the TV show to a lesser degree. I never watched like that 3-part thing that just aired this past fall. But then now I should also preface this by all saying that when I'm recording this, there is still no confirmation on what it is. There seems to be complete confirmation that there is going to be a new Scream movie, but there's no confirmation on if it's going to be a Scream 5 or a Scream reboot. And I've seen different articles kind of pitch the idea or talk about the strengths and weaknesses of both. And I kind of want to throw my hat in there and do the exact same thing. Because really, I mean, that is the only thing you could possibly do, right? Is you could continue what's already been done, or you could just restart it with different characters, same kind of premise. And to me, there is only one way I think of doing this, and I think it is a Scream 5. And that's just my personal opinion, but I think it just works so much better. You have the cast, the main cast, it's been around, since the first one, and they've always kind of said, like, hey, even without Wes Craven, we're still willing, under the right circumstances, we're not like jumping for joy and like just willing to jump in no matter what, but we're willing to listen if it's good. And I think the problems that Scream has had over the last decade and a half has not been the characters, hasn't been the cast, hasn't been what they've even done, I'd say, with those main characters in the story. If you want to look at why Scream 4 didn't necessarily work, I think it did work. I think it's one of the better Scream movies in general. It just took so long to come out, a completely new era, completely new generation. In fact, Scream 4 even made a point to kind of say, well, wasn't it like new decade or new generation, new rules? That was like the main tagline of Scream 4 because it had been so long since Scream 3 that it's like, well, yeah, this is a completely new era. Like, horror has, and although Wes Craven literally, I believe he's one of the pioneers and one of the greatest horror filmmakers ever, even though he you don't really need something to massively change with him, they still kind of went along with that, right? Where it's like, hey, things have changed. A lot's changed in cinemas since we were last here, so we need to kind of show that we can catch up and also that we are still who we are, but we can do things a little bit differently, and that's what Scream 4 did. I don't even think Scream 4 did all that bad, and I think Scream 4, again, is one of the better overall things. It's really just a problem of they need to get the movies out faster, especially with the cast. The good thing they do have, though, is they're not necessarily bound by age just because they're getting older. That doesn't necessarily mean they're losing that much. Like, you can write stories around it. Obviously, without having Wes Craven does definitely hurt it. I mean, here's the deal. Like, I do see the sides. Like, I can see why a reboot makes a lot of sense. So these things have been done before, multiple movies and multiple franchises. And also, let's not forget, and one of the other main things that's just like right in our face is the fact that we're in this reboot era in Hollywood in general. Now, it's kind of like a flip of the coin of whether or not they're going to actually be good. A lot of these more recent ones, the ones that kind of go more like woke, they tend to not be so great. But there are plenty of examples of reboots that are successful. It's tough. It's tough because, again, like, I could see it, and the question I also think becomes this, and here's what I'll say. I love the character of Sidney Prescott. I love the cast. I think Neve Campbell does a fantastic job. I want them back. I want to see them again, especially when you look at how Scream 4 ended. Like, there's always room to come back. So it's kind of a bias of, like, I just want to see those characters return. The biggest problem, though, is when you think of Scream, and I'm talking about even, like, the people that make the decisions, right, in Hollywood, they have to look at it and say, well, would we be losing anything massively if we didn't return with these characters? If we have the reboot, if we came back just with a whole new, like, idea or premise, like a whole new setting, whole new cast of characters, are we losing the core of Scream? And that's ultimately what people have to decide as well. And kind of what the TV show did is, I mean, the idea of Scream is Ghostface, right? It's the character, it's the guy in the mask, or it's whoever it is in the mask, right? That is what Scream is. That's what's synonymous with the property of Scream. So Sidney Prescott, like, how many people won't go to see the new Scream, if it's just called Scream, it comes out in 2022, whenever it is, how many people aren't going to go see it because it doesn't have Sidney in it? Like how many people? And that's the question you have to ask. Now, you could again say, like, well, the TV shows tried it, right? New mask, more like modern era, like very kind of different. New cast of characters. I think solid cast of characters. Different, obviously new story. But it's hard to compare because it's a TV show. Not as many people are going to watch it, and very few actually did, but it's TV. TV in general is, especially like cable, right, is a dying thing. So you can't really, it's tough because you can't really compare the want for it. We talk a lot about on this channel about Pirates of the Caribbean. And one of the things we've said is a Disney Plus show does make a lot of sense. Why though? A lot of people have Disney Plus, and you can track metrics compared to other shows Disney related, right? Because all the Disney stuff is on there. So if you have a Pirates of the Caribbean show, you could say, oh, this show is getting just as much, if not more, people watching it than The Mandalorian or something like that. And then they could say, well, it seems like people definitely want it, so we will go forward and make a movie with it. Now, they're also they are doing a movie. So, like, you know what I mean? It's a rough kind of comparison, and it's hard to do that. You can't do that with Scream. You can't look at that TV show and say, well, we can compare these numbers, because there's really, what are you comparing it to? You really can't compare anything. Even if it does drastically lower numbers, you can kind of count that up to, well, it's a TV show, and so now a lot of people are going to do it. Or I guess you could make the case like it's not the ghost face mask that we all know. It's not Sydney. It's not the main cast around her. So maybe that's, and I mean, you could make that argument. And I will say that I think if they literally made like an 8-episode TV show with the main cast, and they tried to make it as close to like a movie budget kind of thing as they could on a TV show, I think it would do numbers. I think it would do very good. I think it would do better than the Scream show we got. But the question is, like, we never got that. So what are they looking at? Depending on how you frame that way you look at the TV show not doing the greatest. I mean, it got canceled. Technically, I would say after 2 seasons, right? They wanted to do more. This 3-part thing is kind of it, but it's not really season 3 because it just isn't. But they kind of went along with it. But, it's tough. How you frame it, though, you could argue, well, maybe they just need to take it and really refine what they're trying to do and make the movie, make it a reboot, and just hope it works. Or they could say, you know what, Scream works when we have as many of the original people, not just cast, by the way. I'm talking writers, I'm talking producers, I'm talking anybody that they can get that they originally had in those first 4. That's what makes Scream Scream. And another thing is what makes the property Scream is Wes Craven, which is, a lot of movies, a lot of properties in general don't necessarily have that person with it. I think some properties have just gotten lucky. Some directors and some just people that have made stuff, they've just gotten really good at it, but it could continue without them. Wes Craven, though, that's a big one. He's a big one that not having him as part of, like, if they made the movie or when they make this movie and it's not him, obviously, and sadly, that's going to affect it in some way. It's just, can everybody else kind of rise up to kind of like be like, well, we don't have him, but we're going to try and make this work as best we can. It's tough. It's really, really tough. I would still side 100% with a Scream 5. I don't think the characters are done. I don't think age plays a role as much as it does in other movies. More like mainly like superhero movies or like action-y movies where like if your main character gets old enough, then you have to have so many stunt doubles and you have to have people doing it for them, and the movie and it kind of like gets a little messed up because of all the different kind of takes you have to do with the camera work, and there's a lot of things that can totally get messed up because your main cast gets older. They're not like insanely insane. I'm not saying they're like 70 years old, but and also again, like, you don't have to have them be doing all that much. Like, yeah, they run down halls and they get thrown sometimes and stuff like that, but there's not all that much that they probably couldn't do. I think they could do most of the stuff. I think in general it would work. So age isn't necessarily a problem. I think the characters aren't the problem with what has happened, and that is something you have to look at of, well, are people just getting tired of the main cast? I don't think so. I don't think that's it. I think, honestly, it's because of how long it had been in between it. And to be honest, it's going to kind of be the same thing here because they're taking almost just as long to give us another one. So definitely how long in between these movies is a problem and needs to get fixed if you want to see Scream kind of back in the way I feel like they probably want it to be, because it's a moneymaker. It can make so much money, and I feel like just by separating them in years as much as they have, they're definitely not doing it right. I think you can pump these out every 3 years and be just fine, and people aren't going to be fatigued by it. But that's just my opinion, guys. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think the new Scream movie will be a reboot or will be a continuation, Scream 5? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And I'm highly, highly passionate about these movies, like I said in the beginning. So I would like to make more videos on these movies, especially as this movie moves further into production. So if you guys want me to do that, leave in the comments anything you want me to talk about. Make sure you guys are sharing, liking, all that kind of stuff to pump this video up a little bit. Show me that you guys like this kind of content. Okay, so thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video.